Hello, YouTubers. Before I do my next test for the day, I figured I'd make a video. Why not? So, I'm going to ask you a question. Like, share, and subscribe to this video if you guys like my Star Wars shirt. What's the other phrases I'm supposed to say? Take what resonates, leave the rest behind. If it triggers you, there's probably a reason. I don't know. Yeah. So, query: how do you view the world? Right? How do you think there's something wrong with it? This is something that took me a long time to figure out, personally, because I used to think that everything was fucked up. Just excuse my French. Just bleh. Right? You gotta fix stuff, but the more you learn, the more you learn about yourself and accept yourself for the way you are, you might realize that maybe everything is just pretty much okay, right? I mean, is there anything that's really wrong with anything? The beasts feed. There's always a hierarchy of beasts feeding on one another. And yeah, I mean, that's just part of nature, right? And then there's evolution of consciousness that grows into a more advanced machine feeding on another machine. I mean, eventually, you got to think, eventually we're going to grow out of that, right? I mean, how are we going to stop feeding on one another? Eventually, we're going to stop feeding on one another. Wounds feed on one another, right? If it's a wound of like a wound of separation. I feel like I am separate from you in some way. The wound of separation. And that wound of separation shows up in a lot of different ways, right? Like, if I'm separate from you, then I will feel like I need something from you out there to get to here to make this better, right? Constantly feeding on that out there, because if I see a lack out there, it is a projection. Everything comes from right here. Look in the mirror. Everything you experience comes right here. So if you see a lack anywhere out there, it's actually a projection from right here. Being filtered through this thing thinks that there's something out there that's not you. And so it creates a dysfunction between here and here. You don't see yourself as whole because you see out there as not whole either. Think about that. So, I mean, if that's the case, then you wonder, okay, so, and that's not a negative thing, right? That's just part of the process of understanding who we are, what we are. Are we whole? And once you get to a place where, oh, I'm whole, there's nothing wrong with me. I can make myself feel however I want to feel. Everything comes from here. There's a river of life flowing out of me. So, irregardless of anybody else, right? Those are the energy that I project is what I get back. Now, if I'm projecting a wholesome energy, sometimes that's going to trigger somebody that's in an unhealed state. I'm going to give you an example, right? I have been considering, and it was because I had somebody. I have a LinkedIn profile, and I mean, this is a YouTube channel, and you're not going to see too many YouTubers that are just going to bare their soul on their YouTube channel. But I'm here for you, right? Because you're a part of me. I'm going to tell you everything that I go through. Why wouldn't I? I'm not going to hide anything. You're a part of me. Challenge you other YouTubers to do the same. I considered coaching, right? Okay. If I'm going to coach somebody, what am I going to coach them on? Belief comes from within, right? I mean, if I don't believe in myself, then it doesn't matter how much somebody else believes in me. If I don't believe in me, then I'm not going to go anywhere or do anything, right? So if I don't believe in me, then somebody else can't believe in me. It doesn't matter if I hire somebody to believe in me if I don't believe in me, if that makes sense, right? The coach, I am wasting my money on somebody to believe in me. Knowing that, I mean, it's nice to have to have when somebody shows you affection and gratitude and things like that. But um, I mean, I can do that. Do you need to pay for that? Is that something you should need to pay for? No, right? If you feel like you need to pay for that, something wrong in here, right? I mean, you gotta feel good about yourself, and then that's you'll try. Eventually, you go attract somebody who makes you feel good about you, because you feel good about you, right? Feel good about you. Believe in yourself. All of you are miracles in work. So I was trying to convince myself of the value of coaching. It's like, what am I trying to? For one thing, wisdom comes through learning and experience. It doesn't matter how much wisdom you can impart to somebody if it's not their experience. If the experience that they've had has not led them to the wisdom that you are projecting, it's not going to sink in, because everything comes from here. It doesn't come from out there, right? So, what else is there? I mean, I could sell love, but I mean, you can't buy love, right? You just can't buy it. It's not something you can buy. Either you give love and receive love openly. You can't buy love. It can't be bought. And if you try to buy it, it will elude you. It will flee your grasp. You can't buy it. I love you, Donna, so much. Had to say that. Sorry for all of you out there who thought that I love the rest of you too, but I love Donna. So a good friend of mine, I've been on his podcast once, and I love the guy. I'm not going to say his name, but this just happened today, like literally today. And it actually has a lot to do with the reason behind making this video, and I want you guys to consider this, right? And it's the reason why I stopped giving as much advice from the cards. I mean, I don't mind doing cards, and I don't mind flipping cards out and doing tarot readings, and helping people see maybe where, if they feel like they're unhealed. I'm going to tell you the opposite. I'm going to tell you you're just fine. You're just creating something up here that is a total illusion. But I'll help you if you want help. And I'll tell you what I'm going to tell you is just to be creative. Start creating something. Because you're a creator. There you go. You don't need to schedule time with me. I just gave you the best advice you're ever going to hear. And don't try and pay somebody to help you unless you are trying to do something specific, that you're trying to learn a skill that you can't find for free. I think there's not very many things that you're not going to be able to find for free in this world, right? We're living in an age of technology and information, and there really isn't anything that you can't find to learn how to do. There is a few things, I will admit, like there's some skilled, like learning how to play the keyboard. It's very difficult to do off of YouTube. You can do it off of YouTube. Learn to play any instrument. Learn to play it on your own. If you just practice on it and just learn where the keys are at and how it sounds. But it does pay for a course to teach you how to place your fingers and learn chords and things like that, because you're going to learn a lot faster and learn how to make music quicker. Although sometimes that may not necessarily be true for every individual, right? Some people, I mean, tell that to Mozart, right? Mozart just jumped on a piano before he was age 4, because I mean, he was already tuned that way. He probably lived a past life as a pianist, and he was attuned to the mathematical music of the universe. Bach is another example. Somebody that, they just jumped on it and figured it out. That being said, there are some things out there that it's worth paying to learn how to do. If you want to learn it, quicker without struggle. Sometimes the struggle is part of the fun, though. Back to the story. So he was advertising coaching services, and I knew I was stepping on uh, tender territory here, but I've always thought, if I see somebody getting ready to do something, and it's sometimes you have to question whether or not it's in your place to even say anything. Should I even say anything? Is it better to have somebody learn for themselves over time? But if you see somebody going down a road that's going to be self-destructive, and that's the reason for this video, right? Because I love you guys. I don't want to see you do something that's going to be self-destructive in the long term for you and keep you in an unhealed state without even realizing it, right? I love myself, which includes everything that I experience. And in order to love myself, I need to trigger wounds. Wounds don't heal if you just massage them and just tell them that they're nice, right? Oh, you're beautiful. You're this and that. It's two sides to a coin. In order for a wound to heal, you got to trigger it. And you have to bring awareness to it. You're never going to bring awareness to a wound without triggering it. That's something that I've had to learn. And doesn't bother me to trigger wounds anymore because that's how they get healed. I'll get a lot of negative projection pointed at me, right? For that reason. But I'm a healer. I transmute energy. So if you're going to heal the organism, you have to trigger it. Have to. I don't see any other way. Because if you just say, "Oh, it's great," and we're just going to let it, run along, nothing, you're not a creator. You're not creating your own reality. I mean, in order to really create your own reality, you have to trigger wounds. And you have to trigger your own wounds first, right? To make sure you're doing the work for yourself and realize, okay, what wounds, what has my experiences taught me, right? And everything teaches you that everything comes from within, that we are creators, that we're all creating something. And if we try to sell each other advice, what are we doing, right? How could you pay me? I'm going to ask you this directly if you're watching this video. How could you ask me to tell me what you should be doing? Only you know, right? Only you know what's going to make you happy in the moment. Now, I can sit with you and I can read off of you and maybe help you understand by stories that I'm never going to tell you what to do. I'm only going to tell you that I love you, and then maybe offer to create something with you, because you learn a lot about yourself when you find out how much you can get into your creative energy, right? And be there creating with other people without needing to. Asking for help's never bad. And it's nice to ask to see what the group collective wants to do. And I like doing that, right? For example, I'll get back to the story here eventually. Sorry, I'm going on so many sideways, but this is a big subject, right? Because we're talking about wounds around the heart. If somebody asks me to go somewhere and do something, I'll be like, "Yay, let's do that. I'd love to." There's nothing that I love more than having somebody ask me to go somewhere and do something with them. Even if it's to build something, to fix something, or just to go on vacation, right? Recreation. I mean, it's all fun to me because I'm spending it with you. I mean, I could do it by myself, I'm in the middle of writing a book, second book. And it's okay, I like expressing myself, but to be perfectly honest, I would rather be doing something with you. With you. Not you paying me to do something, and not me paying you to do something, but doing something together. Right? We could build a car together. We could do whatever, right? And then eventually enough of us will start doing things together and realize that, hey, it doesn't have to be complicated. We don't have to put somebody in charge, right? I mean, that's terrible. You don't want to have to answer to somebody and have them tell you what to do. Although maybe we need a little direction, right? I mean, if somebody's got a game plan and they really know what needs to be built, and we just have this small little picture and I don't care about the rest of the picture, but I need to make sure I check with the rest of the picture before we do our little picture, right? That makes sense, right? And that's cooperative, fun building together. It's not narcissistic. It's just somebody needs to have the bigger picture in their head of what we're doing. And if it's not me, then it might as well be you or somebody else. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I can play my little small part and I'm happy, right? Who cares? As long as we're all treated equally, right? You don't want to place more value on one person than another just because they have a bigger picture. Not healthy. Anyway, so going back to coaching, I made a comment. I said, hey, I agreed to disagree. I've paid for coaching in the past, and I respected those people, and the person that I was paying coaching for. But I just found that it didn't create value for me because I found that I needed to go through my own journey of self-discovery and find what it was that I was here to do. Right? What did I want to do? And I remember even when I got a coach that what I wanted to do was build a way for people to make decisions together in a healthy way without having to have somebody tell you what to do, right? I mean, you always want to build something when we're working together with people, check with each other, because a lot of times, and this is my experience, I have seen people that think so less of themselves have more value to a conversation than they realized that they did. And if they weren't there, there was information that they had that we wouldn't have gotten if they weren't there. They were getting paid less. And I could tell, even from a intellectual standpoint, they didn't feel like they had as much value, but that's never the case. Every single one of us have value. Some people are more artistic. Some people are more intellectual. Some people are more, a lot of different things, right? And even intellectualism has a certain kind of art behind it. Life really is a tapestry and beauty of art. But I would much rather do that and make sure that I'm lifting those people up to make sure, hey, look, you have a lot of value here. Just because, you like to focus more on just, fishing, hunting, doing, maybe it's, whatever. That doesn't mean that you don't have value, because a lot of times people are doing jobs that and having a role in what you're doing that has so much value, then just don't get credit for it, right? And they don't get checked. And because people don't check with those people, then the things that you're trying to create are less than what they could have been. So I'm sure all of you have experienced this in the workplace. If any of you are of any age whatsoever, you understand what I'm saying. Anyway, and so he said, well, yeah, you're right. You probably wasted your money. You probably bought for consulting, but nothing's ever a waste of money because it's always a learning experience. I take everything, be grateful for every experience you go through because it's teaching you something. And it's teaching you about maybe wounds and I was carrying a lot of wounds back then. I'll be the first one to tell you. Like I said, I ain't any different than anybody else. But you do move through stages and you heal internal things and then as soon as you're aware of it, it's like, why is this triggering me? Why would this trigger me, right? Is something out there triggering me? And just let it be. At the same time, if I love it, then maybe I need to trigger it so that it comes to a higher awareness of itself. Because I knew that the only way that I got to where I was at is if I got triggered. And I was being triggered by things that people were saying, maybe not even directly, but sometimes directly, Like I made a post one time about, hey, I got this way to make you guys can make way more money. And then I had somebody in my comments say, hey, stay in your own lane. And I thought, you know what? You're right. Why would I tell you what I think you should be doing? I don't care. Right? And I had to think about that and not get triggered, but just self-reflect. Yeah. Anyway, so the discussion ended, the comment ended when I was bringing this up about coaching. And he's like, I don't really appreciate it because, I take this as a personal attack. And I said, and I could read the comment, but I'm not going to. And I said, well, I'm sorry. I was just hoping you could provide some value to me of coaching, because I've tried to find value in coaching and I just can't find it to offer it to other people. What is it that I can coach you on that you can't coach yourself on? Now, if there's a specific skill you want to learn that I have, then sure, I'd be more than happy to help you with that and teach you to do that. But for the most part, like I said, right, everything's available now. It's like, if you're not willing to do the work for yourself, why would you pay somebody to do it for you, right? I mean, there's certain things that, yeah, it makes sense to pay for. Like, you can self-publish on Amazon, but if you want a commercial public, like I just got done paying a publisher, right? Because, they're going to buy they've got an editor, because if you're writing a book, get an editor. You got to have an editor. You can't not have an editor. You have to have a second opinion on the things that you're writing and have somebody work with you to help you with that, and it'll teach you about your own writing, how you're addressing yourself, and because you're talking to the reader as an individual. Never try to talk. It's much harder to talk to a group than just talk to the reader individually as a reader, as the reader. And your writing will get better over time. And realistically, that's the best way you could end up becoming an editor in the long run, if that's a job that you wanted. If I wanted to continue writing books, I could become an editor, because I just know what works when you're reading something, what sounds fluid, right? You keep the conversation going. If you're telling a story and speaking directly to the reader and connecting with the reader on what emotions they're feeling and describing what's happening to you and all those things, right? You get a lot better at that as you continue writing. But when it comes to this, I said, I didn't, in this comment, I said, I'm sorry, I didn't take this didn't intend it as a personal attack, because he was questioning my intent, right? Because he took it as a personal attack. So he's questioning the intent of someone else. You're living in a giant field of intelligence. Everything is you. The intent is for you to grow. If anything triggers you, it's doing so for a reason, for you to grow. Different perspective, right? Growing into that perspective pulls you into much higher awareness. Oh, wait, I'm this higher self. Why wouldn't I want to trigger myself? There's nothing wrong with triggering myself. If I want it to grow, it won't become self-aware if it doesn't get triggered by doing something that's self-destructive, for one thing. And that's why I was curious. I was actually asking an honest question: where's the value in coaching? And he took it as a personal attack. And I was like, well, I didn't intend it to be a personal attack. It was something that I was unaware of. I thought about getting into coaching and couldn't find the value. Now, if it triggers you, now, why would you take that as a personal attack, as me just asking a generalized question about coaching? Right? And so that's how my last response was. Consider this. Anytime you get triggered, it's usually an indication of an unhealed wound. Everything comes from within. If there's anything out there that triggers you, then why? You have to get to the bottom of it. For one thing, I am no better than you, right? All of us are creating our own reality. And so if I see something wrong with you, usually is an indication that I see something wrong with me. And so I'll project that onto you so that I can draw energy from you, right? I can sell you a service. Wow. Actually, every psychologists still haven't gotten this part. That one thing. The psychologists try to ground out and psychologists, I mean, you'll even see it online. Psychologists go to other shrinks to talk to them. And every psychologist, I've talked to psychologists, and it's like, yeah, I listen to people's problems all day, and all I can do is just try to not, it's their primary job just to listen and not lay their problems on those people. Because it's just a feeding frenzy, right? They're just feeding on each other's unhealed state instead of saying, oh, wait, it's all fine. If everybody's creating their own reality, all I have to do is become a teacher, and that's the purpose of this YouTube channel, to teach how to create your own reality. And the only way to do that is to put yourself in service to everybody and learn about yourself. You'll always be learning about yourself. And what you find out is that if you just do what you're asked, you'll always be taken care of. And love everybody regardless of whatever state they're in. Always offer, always be there, be available. Reach out every once in a while. Just tell people you love them just because, right? We love each other. It's really that simple. And if finally you'll get to a place where you just be at peace with where everybody is at. And, they can project negatively on me. That's part of my healing job. You learn that the job is more about transmuting the energy projected at you from an unhealed state than it has anything to do with you. It really doesn't have anything to do with you. It's about understanding who you are and how to heal the body. All of this is you, me and you together. So if I tried to sell you coaching, I wouldn't be helping you. I would be getting you to look outside of yourself for something out there to help you, when everything that you have comes from right here. I hope that makes sense. Which is why all of my efforts are now geared towards finishing my second book, being a creator, creating for myself as an individual, and potentially creating with other people, right? I just want to create with other people and build the kind of world that we all want to live in. Doesn't matter whether or not ETs show up tomorrow, on Thursday, or a year from now. They're waiting for us to do this. I can tell you, to be at peace and be creating together, and then enjoy each other's creations. Because we're not really, the society we see right now is fairly still unhealed. It's healing, and it is healing for sure, because you're seeing more and more people going into business for themselves. But it's because the market's slowing down. That healing process is happening naturally. That's why I say that there's really nothing wrong with anything out there. It's happening underneath the surface, whether we realize it or not. And I understood that the state that I got to very recently is the same state that everybody's going to get to if they haven't already got there already. It's not like I'm the first. I can only speak for myself. I'm at peace, and it doesn't bother me if I trigger somebody. Because if it did, then I would just create this never-ending conflict, right? But you have to be able to be okay with triggering somebody, because you'll be okay with yourself, and you realize you're just triggering something in them that needs to get healed. And you don't want to just go out there triggering everybody. Be creative, right? I mean, I'm not going to do that. But if there's somebody I care about that I interact with every once in a while, I'll just try and get them to question something, maybe. Hey, just question this. And if it triggers them, if they take it personally, when it's not directed as a personal attack, that's not my deal, right? I mean, I've had conversations about how we create our own reality, and some people buck that, right? Well, what about this person? It's not outside. Nothing outside of you has anything to do with what you are experiencing, because everything comes from right here. Love you guys so, so much. I guess I could pull a oracle card. What shall we hear today? Emotions. Okay. Emotions. Are they good emotions? Walk your truth. Emotions and walk your truth. I do get emotional about, I have to say that this is probably one of the first times in my life that, and I'll be honest, that I really had felt like a driving emotional state towards understanding how to heal the body. Because can't offer somebody as a service outside of themselves to heal them, but you can get in a state of peace and trigger the body and force it to heal. It's like people don't think about it that way. It's like, well, it's an attack. No, I'm not. I'm just questioning what you're doing. I'm just questioning an activity you're doing. Is it helpful for you or is it harmful for you? Ask yourself the same question. Is something that you're doing day to day, is it helping you or is it harming you? I don't know. I mean, coffee's not the best thing for me. Technically kind of harming, but if you get used to transmuting negative energy and it doesn't, you get to where, I mean, obviously I'm not going to drink a half gallon of vodka a day. I just can't do it, right? Maybe I'll get to an ascended state where I could do that. I don't know, right? But at that point, if you could do that, then what would be the point? Right? Yeah. Anyway, love you guys. Have a beautiful day, and I'll catch you on the next one.